You're watching Bits.
Good luck, Jim.
Tonight, Bits takes on the world with a laptop and Mission Impossible. We take on the universe with a dummy and Millennium Soldier. And we take on a phenomenon as Pokemon makes its way to our unsuspecting shores.
But first, let's get some wheels.
Riddled with controversy, the original Grand Theft Auto broke Underworld's ground as the first car chase game to smear pedestrian blood on the pavement in the context of fantastic gameplay. The House of Commons pointed out the disturbingness of running over little old ladies, driving instructors took up arms, and mothers gathered their babies to their bosoms. The publicity skyrocketed, and 2 years on, the game is still in the charts. Now, the next installment, Grand Theft Auto 2, is just about to hit the streets screeching. So, get into those cars, because it's time to destroy the lives of some innocent people. To recap, Grand Theft Auto is the first game in a long time to offer complete freedom in a well-thought-out and highly entertaining, destructive environment. Speeding around a city in any direction you chose, playing Public Enemy #1 was a hoot and a half. It was created by Scottish-based DMA Design. Then Grand Theft Auto 1969 hit the shelves, a feeble add-on designed by a Canadian company amidst takeovers and professional squabbling. The game copied the original, but transported it back in time to the summer of love. Imagine Austin Powers, international man of mystery, on a murderous spree down Carnaby Street, spreading bloodshed like he usually spreads legs. It was groovy, it was wild, but it was only one level. At best, it regenerated publicity for the original and started the ball rolling for the release of this new baby. DMA Design reclaimed their right to produce the full GTA 2. Thank goodness for that. Still with the top-down thing, man, and you can't go in the buildings? What's up with that, I hear you say? Well, actually, there's far, far more to the sequel than just the visuals. For example, they've added a heavy load of strategy in a very clever way. Instead of the fuzz being your only adversary, you now have to contend with 7 gangs, each a stronghold in its own part of the much larger city. They're the guys who give you your livelihood, who collect and who expect respect. Each group of organized hoodlums has their own agenda. The Krishnas are back, more vehement about kidnapping innocent bystanders and brainwashing them. The loonies schizophrenically roam the streets, blowing people away. The Zaibatsu company deals in drugs and requires pickups and transfers. The Russian mafia just like to kill, usually for nuclear warheads. The rednecks hang out in their Elvis-admiring trailer park compound, blowing each other up over family disputes. The Yakuza are the Japanese suit-wearing drug traffickers, and the scientists deal with espionage. Think Q. Think James Bond. But these guys don't like anybody, so your task is to play them off each other, picking up as many missions as possible from the fallout. Respect is documented on a barometer at the top left of the screen. The more you have, the better the mission. The less, the more likely they'll start locking on and letting rip as soon as you set toe on their turf. In this city, there's a lot of hustle and bustle. At any one time, there can be 120 pedestrians on screen and up to 50 cars. Your non-playing characters aren't sprites, neither. Muggers, carjackers, psychopaths, assassins, they're all alive and well. Occasionally, they may even come after you. The less timid element aren't too keen on having their motors stolen. You might just have to put up your dukes and fight. But the thing that was so key to the original was its superb sense of humor. The Canadians didn't stand a chance against the bitter and twisted minds of DMA Design. And the proof? Hot dog vans. If the payoff from the gangs ain't enough for you, join the service profession and take up a job as a hot dog salesman. If you're a particularly nice taxi driver, you might even get a tip on top of your fare. GTA featured the gut-bustingest soundtrack of any game ever. In GTA 2, there are more tunes to choose from, with 11 radio stations in the city featuring ads, news bulletins, and DJ patter. If you don't like it, you can go blow up the station. Fantastic. The police have always been the bad guys, but in past installments they were too easy to fob off. This time, if you got the razz on your tail, they'll stay there sniffing your arse like a dog in heat. If you manage to avoid being busted, the feds will come after you. Then the SWAT team, then the army, and there are tanks up for grabs. Although it ain't the most groundbreaking thing in the block, it sure as heck takes me back to that happy place, that place where I can slaughter at will. Grand Theft Auto is coming out on a very special day of the 22nd of October. I'll be there with driving gloves on. Eventually.
Now, about a month ago, Alex here had a very strange dream. Cockroaches, parrots, pecan pie and jail cells was a little bit freaky. So to alleviate her insanity, we've asked you to come up with your very own psychoanalytical interpretations.
However, instead of rewarding the Freudian fantasies, the perverted sexual notions, and the repressed hostility which many of you mentalists sent in to us, we decided on the most incisive answer of all.
Apparently, according to Matthew Foggart from Barnsley, the whole thing is a complex visual invective against those big-time corporates who continue to rip us off. And for what?
Thank you very much, Maddie. Not only are you rewarded with preserving my mental well-being and the well-being of those around me, but you also go away with the fantastic, superb, spectacular Dreamcast console delivered to your door on the 14th of October, 1999.
This dream is the reality, baby.
No console would be complete without a good blast 'em up, and they don't come much more rocket-fueled than the new Dreamcast's Millennium Soldier Expendable.
Set far in the future, when technology has developed to the point of cloning humans, identikit soldiers are mass-produced to battle it out with a predatory alien Shavra race. And that's about it for storyline, really. But what do you expect for a shoot-a-thon? The big guns are out for this one, and you certainly have a massive choice of armaments. I'm sure that this game can be played with the finesse of careful aim and considered weapon selection, but frankly, I'd be surprised if anybody could be bothered. Most of the time, there's a plethora of shooters just lying around for the taking. Blast away until the barrel is empty, and then it's on to the next pickup for more shooting from the hip. The infantry are exactly what it says on the box: expendable. I enjoyed the humour of the FMV intro sequence, but like most of its counterparts, you'll likely only watch it the once. You have a limited number of lives, but plenty of continues, which no doubt you'll need if you intend gunning with this game for longer than half an hour. Personally, I found it very confusing to play when I tried it out on a Dreamcast pod. Okay, so the controls aren't exactly the challenge. Picking up weapons and firing them is a piece of piss. But I had a real problem with the screen. All that light action. It's very disorientating because half the time you can't see where you're going or what you're doing, particularly in two-player mode. There were just too many busy, large-scale light explosions going on to see clearly. At the beginning of each of the many different levels, you're given an objective. But to be honest, it's fairly pointless. I mean, you have to complete certain tasks to progress. But because the game is so linear, you can't fail to clinch it unless you happen to run out of time.
This is arcade-style action in the extreme. Big guns and ammo are littered everywhere for the taking, and although some weapons may run out of steam, there's always plenty more popping up to get you through the hard bits.
There are a couple of cool specials too, like the laser sighting and the little fireballs that circle you. Simply run into your enemy and watch those orbs do the rest. Nice. Enemy fire is deceptively slow, but because of the camera angle and slightly confusing direction controls, they somehow manage to find their target more often than not. The game reminded me a little of Apocalypse on the PlayStation in this respect. Once again, you can fire sideways whilst running forwards, although you are minus the trippy camera angles. Whilst you're on your travels, you'll come across other humanoids who you can rescue. Watch out though, because they can die, and if it's you that finishes them off, it's called a mercy killing. As you'd expect, the bosses are big and spit out a wide-ranging firepower. Avoid it if you can, but with all that action going on, it's sometimes hard to see where to hide. This is the kind of game that will hold your attention for a limited time. You won't find yourself switching it on in the morning only to look up after a while and suddenly find it's dark.
Millennium Soldier Expendable is a good game of its type. It's great for letting loose aggression, but hardly engrossing stuff. It's got some lovely graphics, but sometimes that's just not enough. Buy it if you like the genre. It's out on October 14th with the launch of the Dreamcast.
BIPS, it's cheat time on Bet! Now, unless you're the royal family, running a dungeon is well beyond the means of any ordinary person. There's the mistresses to employ, the minions to keep track of, and those dirty little imps to pay off. Not to mention the complete restructuring process of an underground lair. So to ease the financial concerns of Dungeon Keeper 2, you can make money magically appear out of the ether. While playing the game, enter Control, plus Alt, plus C, then type, show me the money. That's your bank account padded for life.
So Quake 2 is ported over to the N64. It was a great single-player game on the PC, but it really made its mark as the end-all, be-all of multiplayer internet fragging. So, after you've exhausted all of the options on the console version, what the heck do you do when you don't have the electronic superhighway? You could access the special Twists level and have a minute 40 of multiplayer fragging action with the rocket launcher. To get to this extra special bonus stage, simply type in FBBC, VBBB, FBBC, VBF7, and you and your mates are fragging the night fantastic.
Braveheart the game puts you in Mel Gibson's pants, organising an army against the evil English scum to change the course of history forever. Now, it gets a little busy on the battlefield sometimes, so why not have the Australian sex machine to yourself? Get rid of the bloodthirsty Scots, I say. To kill your own people, press delete during fighting and type in the 500. Now, it's time for some solitary Gibson action.
Join us after the break for this. So let's take a little look at what's on the shop shelf then, shall we? Trust no one. Here's a game where you must follow a trail of elusive clues, sift through vital evidence and stay ahead of the cover-up. Mulder and Scully have sleuthed their way into the shops and it's your job to get to the scene of the crime. It takes cunning and dedication and a lot of spooky music to solve a case in The X-Files. Space, the final frontier. But you, my little astronaut, are going beyond that frontier. No more leisurely cruising of the interplanetary froth. Oh no, you'll be blasting your way through the open-ended space adventure that calls itself X. It's a small step for man, but a great thrusting explosion for the cosmological shooters amongst us. Up, up, up and away, Junior Birdman. Since man first turned his eyes toward the blue, airy skies and envied the winged creatures he saw there, he has longed to fly. The promise of heaven now awaits the sweaty little joystick wielder as he straps himself into the ultimate flight sim available. Fly is calling you for departure now. Watch out for the accurate star placement and the wispy volumetric clouds. Ooh, so dreamy. All businessmen past a certain age need to find themselves a hobby that gives them an air of distinction. Inspector Morse has his opera, Alan Titchmarsh has his gardening, and now Mario has his golf. There's no end to the talent of this little mustachioed Italian plumber, this time showing off his skills with driver, iron and putter. Mario is back, and this time he's donned lemon slacks and Slazenger sweaters. Hardcore golfers may find it off-putting as a baby dinosaur tees off at the first, but for the rest of you out there, Mario Golf has now putted its way into the shops. The Duke is back on Nintendo. This time it's not a port from the PC. Oh no. Duke Nukem Zero Hour has been built from the ground up, following only the outline for the PlayStation game Time to Kill. If big guns, bikini girls and Yankee wisecracking are your thing, then this game is well worth a visit.
Mess with the best, die like the rest.
Nice.
First there was the TV series, then there was the film, then they brought out the record, and now it's a game. So a completely original idea then, nothing like you've ever seen before. Well, Mission Impossible is just like everything you've ever seen before.
To begin with, it came out on the Nintendo 64. That was last year. It's a port then, so what? Well, it's a port to the little grey box, which means that any graphic power it once had is now lost in the inferior pixelations of the PlayStation. So much for the big screen license then. It should also be noted that the N64 version sank with a minimal ripple when pitted against the great spy game GoldenEye. 1 whole year later, and up it pops on the PlayStation, where there is no 007 to compete with. Ah, but the Sony console has Metal Gear Solid and Siphon Filter. 2 spy games, one great, one good, both of which have shot up the charts without the need for an attention-grabbing license. Okay, for those of you who don't recognise the name and the storyline, let me fill you in. Your mission, should you choose to play it, is to save the world from evil villains and keep your job as a spy by proving that you're not a traitor. To substantiate your innocence, you'll have to infiltrate key areas, including the CIA headquarters in Langley, and carry out various spy-worthy tasks, such as escaping over roofs and taking on the identities of high-ranking officers. The baddies are out to get you, but fortuitously, you have a pocket full of gadgets to help you out of sticky situations. The coolest of these is undoubtedly the Facemaker, that allows you the freedom to take on any person's identity that you so choose. Imagine the fun that you could have with that, where you're allowed to roam freely with it. Unfortunately, you're not, as the game is actually pretty linear, and you can't face change with just anyone, only the ones that will allow you to progress through the game. Boring.
Having said that, the storyline is undeniably good. Then again, they've had lots to draw from the long-running TV series to the film. Although the plot is cool, and you do get to do some fun stuff, like hanging from the ceiling by a wire, the game lacks any real sophistication.
I've located a small building with some...
Graphically, it's not great. Even in the opening scene, where structures in the distance are pretty much hidden by fog, there is the odd polygon folding, something that just should not be happening on a game that took an additional year to port.
There are 5 missions over 20 levels, the first few of which should pose you absolutely no problem whatsoever, provided you have half a brain, or less.
The Impossible version will only add a couple of mission objectives, if you're lucky. The game is also full of inconsistencies that I found really annoying. For example, in the first level, you're specifically told that the face changer is unstable in cold conditions and will only last so long.
Well, you can run around for half an hour in the icy opening scene and nothing happens, apart from a few comments from your frozen colleague Clutter. And if he can feel the chill, why can't your face changer? Oh.
The developers have touted this game as one to exercise your brain and keep your wits about you. However, I found that it was more a case of finding the rather obviously placed items needed to proceed and doing so quickly enough to avoid detection. That's not hard now, is it? Exciting as it is to play it being a spy, this game just doesn't live up to expectations. It has a very definite feel of resting on its licensed laurels and little else. It's too easy, doesn't look good, and is frustrating. The controls aren't in the least intuitive and can be extremely annoying at times, particularly the inventory ones, as you sometimes had to go through a 3-button process to use items.
Mission Impossible fans may rent it, but as for the rest of you, I suggest that you don't accept the assignment and simply let it self-destruct. It drove this reviewer up the wall.
Mission Impossible is out for your PlayStation on October 1st.
As you may already know, the makers of Tekken and Ridge Racer are getting back to their roots with the release of Pac-Man World on PlayStation. Take a look at this. Most people forget that Namco made their name with a little yellow circle chap who was paranoid of ghosts and hungry for tiny white pills. Perhaps it's no surprise that the people who grew up with Master Pac himself became clubheads largely in Ibiza. The new game's lovely though, full of 3D action adventure just like Mario. Expect maze puzzles and lots of fruit. Tasty stuff.
Waka waka waka.
Months of anticipation came to an end when at the Tokyo Game Show a couple of weeks ago, Sony finally unveiled their next generation console, the PlayStation 2.
As expected, this little box is going to have some hefty hardware inside. It's going to have a DVD port, which will play all of your favorite tunes from Nina Simone to Guar, and it'll also check out all your Hollywood blockbusters. Not to mention the fact that it's going to be internet connectable, and it's going to be in direct competition with the Dreamcast's brain at 128 bits.
However, still only 2 controller ports. How bizarre.
Nintendo is truly being given a run for its money at the moment with the advent of a serious competitor for the Game Boy. The Dreamcast-compatible Neo Geo is set to hit the market in mid-October, so check it out.
I'm not the boy.
And there's no doubting the thrust of their marketing campaign.
I'm not the boy. I'm not the boy.
I'm not the boy.
Interestingly, this handheld has reduced its price to $59.99 in an effort to distance it from PlayStation and the N64, which were recently repositioned at $79.99. But whether it can take out the classic Game Boy from its position after all these years monopolising our pockets is the real question.
Neo Geo is pitched as the new lifestyle accessory for 20-somethings. It's a lot squatter than the Game Boy, but there's a lot more colour. There's an impressive range of titles at launch too, something to please even the most particular palate. From beat-em-ups to sports to arcade classics, there's something to make everyone pull their hands out their pockets.
There have been attempts in the past to make other handheld portable game stations. Sega and Sony have both thrown their dice in, but to no avail. The Echo Baby Game Boy still marches on.
Pokemon. The name should spread fear across parents in the UK. It's coming in time for Christmas. The next big thing, the furries of '99, the phenomenon that took the US and Tokyo by storm, and it's coming out on Game Boy next month.
Get your nets out, we're going on a pocket monster hunt. In short, you're a dude living on a secluded island with a big dream. You want to be the master monster trainer. These aren't growling beasties that go bump in the night. No, they're adorable, they're cuddly, and they are a marketing phenomenon. They are Pokemon, and you must adopt, train, and battle with them so you can acquire more and more for your menagerie. Whipping through the initial levels, you meander through a world not unusual to Zelda Game Boy fans and pick up your first Pokemon. The rest of the game follows a relatively linear path in which you discuss, learn, and battle with non-playing characters. Be warned, though, there are rare breeds that you'll only encounter once in this electronic world. If you miss them, you're out of luck.
The twist is that to complete the game, you have to collect all 150 of the creatures. Now, the 2 versions, red and blue, only have 140. There are 10 exclusive monsters on each of the colours. Therefore, you must link up with your friends.
That's just a ploy to get people to buy 2 Game Boys.
Oh, no, it's clever multiplayer action, man. It's competition time, and this week you can be one of 5 lucky winners to take home a copy of the chart-topping WWF Attitude Act.
And a pair of pants signed by us lovely Bits girls.
All you have to do is ponder upon this simple question.
Which computer game character wears the wildest pants and why?
Email your answers to bits4later@yahoo.co.uk.
Beware, coward.